Welcome back to Wash Talk, the Car Wash podcast. I'm your host, Rich DiPaolo, and joining me today is Harry Caruso, founder and CEO of Carwash Advisory. Welcome back to Wash Talk, Harry.
Thank you, Rich. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, sounds good. So as you know by now, Harry, we tend to begin our podcast episode with what we call the basic package question. It helps us get to know you a little bit better. Our basic package question for you today, Harry, is if you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be and why? Hey, Car Wash fans. Before we get started, be sure to hit the like button below and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. We appreciate you supporting our channel. And now, back to our interview with Harry Caruso.
My answer is relatively boring. I would live back in New York City, where I am, and just because of the people and the atmosphere.
All right, great. Yeah. So you're living your best life.
Yes, in many ways.
All right, great. So wanted to catch up with you on today's podcast episode, Harry, with a topic that's really been bantered about quite a bit in this car wash industry, and that's the state of mergers and acquisitions, particularly on the operator side, right? So as we sit here in early 2023, what is the state of car wash M&A?
Well, Rich, that's a tough question to answer, but the state is that it's an ever-increasing, on the larger scale, ever-increasing velocity ramp-up, right? We've never seen volumes like we are now. The industry's never seen it. And the most akin time is one that led up to a less than favorable one. So what we're seeing is the M&A activity doesn't seem to stop. Now, the new builds seem to be taking a larger proportion than before, but the M&A activity is nobody's taking their foot off the pedal, and that doesn't seem to be happening or anticipated to happen anytime soon.
Okay. Now, there's been intense M&A activity in this industry over the past few years, right? So is there still a lot of inventory left of car wash sellers out there?
That's also this is an interesting question. I've never thought about it by way of inventory, but you definitely can. It's actually a quite apt way to look at it. So the answer is yes. The question is that inventory of interest to what is the subsect where you're seeing all this M&A activity? Or in other words, are the wash types, the quality, the models that are left in quote-unquote inventory of interest to those very active parties you're seeing acquiring everybody else? And in that regard, Rich, everybody throws around these statistics about, we have 60,000 conveyors, we have this many, wash. There's a million different ways to cut the data, but the truth be told is the broad strokes answer is the consolidation in the industry is at tiny amounts as a whole, right? So from here, there is a lot more room for consolidation. What one has to do is peel back the layer of applicable target markets, and that's going to include those, layers of, is it the right model? Is it the right level of profitability? Is it in the right location? Where all washes may not be a target. So the inventory is still there. The inventory that's shrinking is the target market inventory.
Okay. Oh, interesting. All right. So as you mentioned in your previous response, Harry, a lot of chains are focusing on new build and building, their greenfield development and whatnot. So this shift in strategy, maybe they're focusing a little less on M&A activity. Maybe that's fair to say. I think the industry's been waiting for a significant merger and acquisition to happen, and I think we saw a couple of examples of that, but we haven't seen all too many. Of a larger chain buying like a 20-plus location chain. Certainly saw a couple of examples, as I mentioned. Do you see more of that activity taking place in M&A, in the next phase of M&A that we're entering? What do you see as the next phase of M&A? What does that look like to you?
Yeah, so there's a lot here. So we might have to break it down, but it's a brilliant question. One of the most apt points that you mentioned that constantly gets skipped over, but is so very salient to the industry as a whole, is all this M&A activity that we're seeing, especially on the bigger transactional side, right? So the three most notable transactions that immediately come to mind of recency and scale would be Golden Gate Capital's acquisition of Tidal Wave. It would be Carwash being bought by Warburg Pincus, and it would be TSG and, forgive me, Superstar, if my memory serves. So all of these are financial sponsors buying large wash packages. Not a single one is a car wash operator or company buying another car wash company. So it's very different. So your question, which is alluding to, in this next wave here, are we finally going to see operators buying operators, and we're going to see mega mergers to make this, behemoth of a car wash juggernaut? My personal opinion is no, absolutely not. We'll see when it all comes down to it, but I think the next leg in this race will be more so the creation of more Mr.-sized companies in that 200 to 300 site realm than the creation of a 500 site company.
Oh, interesting. Okay, interesting. One of the bigger news items that we've seen in recent years, Harry, was the fact that Mr. Carwash, an independent operator, went public. I believe that was in 2021, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Kind of the chatter was that another one or two chains might look to go public this year or in 2022, and that did not come to fruition. Do you foresee another prominent car wash chain going public to fund growth in the next, let's say, 6 to 12 months?
Yes, Rich. The short answer is yes, and in fact, I would see 2 to 3. Wow. Right, and this goes in tandem with or lockstep with what we were talking about during the last question, which is, are we going to see these mega mergers? No, but we're going to see the creation of several 1 to 200 site, maybe 2 to 300 site companies, more in the realm of Zips, Mister, etc. And without mentioning names, they are. It doesn't matter about names. We don't have to mention them anyways. But what's really important is that they're simply going to a different avenue to raise capital, right? It does provide a liquidity event for the investors, which is obviously beneficial for those who have been long stakeholders and long-term holders. But by and large, they're saying we are so big, right? There's only one place in many regards, right, where we can get this lump sum of capital we need for that next leg of our growth, and that's public markets. Now, Mister's reception in public markets, which is nothing to hide from or scoff at, has been less than fantastic, right? The real question on everybody's mind, and I'm sure it's on yours and a lot of people that ask you this, as it is with us, is will Mister's performance have large implications on those said unnamed companies that may go public? And the answer is yes, but to the extent we do not know.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
We've certainly seen no shortage of headwinds pretty much since the lockdowns of COVID, right? It's just been one thing after another, dealing with labor shortages, international strife. I mean, you name it, our country and the world is facing it pretty much today, right? So, but it doesn't seem like the car wash industry slowed or lost its luster, especially in the eyes of investors. Do you agree with that? And if not, where did the industry kind of slow down? What areas has it slowed down from these headwinds that we've seen over the last couple of years?
You ask great questions, Rich. So do I agree with the statement, or do I agree that do I agree with the amount of money being poured into car washes right now?
Do you agree that the industry never lost its luster or its momentum from these headwinds, at least not significantly?
Rich, I would say I will go one step further and raise you and say no, but more so it actually sped up. It increased the level of fervor. And this makes sense. When you boil all these complicated sort of microeconomic problems down, right? What's actually going on has to make sense. Why did car washes experience an actual increase in velocity in terms of fervor in the industry? Well, nobody had anywhere to put money, right? I mean, I'm sure you've seen it on a personal scale, as we all have, and goodness knows institutional investors and funds have seen it on a larger scale. It's very difficult, especially during the height of COVID, to find secure places of investment. Where do you go with this capital? So car washes, whose performance by and large as an industry was just fantastic throughout COVID. Now full serves, flex servers for all the operators out there who operate those, I promise you I'm not ignoring it. They got hit hard when they shut down, right? And that it's atrocious and it's terrible what happened to them. But by and large, and compared to other industries, car washes killed it across the board. So I totally and fully agree with the question. And I think I might have missed one part. Was there another part, Rich?
No, I think do you anticipate any other headwinds in 2023? Do you think these are kind of transitory issues that we're dealing with as an industry? Are there any long-term effects that, interest rates are up and, are there any long-term effects that car wash operators should be mindful of as we go through 2023?
As an operator owner, no. I think that the biggest risk that you run is to kid yourself that this trend is not going to persevere over the next 10 years, 5 years at least, right? We have no reason to believe it's going to stop. And regardless, and as many have thought about the macro economy as a whole, eventually it has to tip. Well, our country has gone through a tremendous amount in the last 3 years and still largely unwavering by way of economy. I'm not saying it won't come crashing. I think we're overdue for a correction, but I just wouldn't bank your livelihood and your family's livelihood on a macroeconomic call of car washes and this trend, not persisting in terms of the fervor and the acquisition activity. That to me would be foolish.
All right, sounds good. Well, any predictions for M&A in 2023 that you want to leave us with for this podcast, Harry?
Nothing in particular, no.
All right. Well, I guess we'll find out together, right? So, really appreciate your time today, Harry. It was great catching up with you again. Our guest today has been Harry Caruso of Carwash Advisory. To learn more about his company, please visit carwashadvisory.com.